Wow. Thomas, you guys are landing right over the target with the senior executive services and this other council of 500 that you have found. You guys are amazing. And let me tell you, I know the reactions because, as you know, I have white hats. I'll call them white hats that are all throughout the government. And one of our white hats reported the other day that this week their agency has exploded with this information that we have this tool that you can search out the senior executive services. And then we've also revealed other things. People are looking to get out. They're looking for early retirements. They're trying to find the nearest exit door. But then this morning, I got an email from a former high-level government official. And I'm going to have her unnamed at this point. And she expressed concern over our article on the SES. Now, she says from her experience, there are a lot of good people at this level in government. And to throw them all overboard, as the article seems to suggest, would open up the government even further to be controlled by outside contractors like Lockheed Martin. May I continue on?
Yes, please.
Okay, so people know that you're there and that I'm just not talking over you. As with the Constitution, the key is not to rewrite it, but to enforce it. So with the role of SES, it is to make sure that they do their job lawfully and properly. Oh, boy, talk about the hairballs in my throat here. There are some things that the government needs to be responsible for that shouldn't be outsourced, and getting rid of SES would outsource what little control there is over the purse strings by the government. And then later on, she went to say in a tweet this morning, there is $21 trillion missing from U.S. government. It left on corporate payment systems and through accounts run by private New York Fed member banks. The SES are the people who can get it back. Get rid of them and the banks and corporations will be in complete control. And since she was such a high-level government official who took the time to write us, Thomas, you need to give her a response.
100% incorrect.
That's what I thought.
Every single thing just said in that note that you just read is 100% opposite of what it should be. 180 degrees opposite. Wrong. SES is sold out to the corporations, and Lockheed Martin in particular, who literally has the largest corporate intelligence agency already controlling our government. So no, if you close SES, you close the SS Waffen. You close the parasitic organism that was placed into our civil service system when it was dismantled in 1978. I want that senior official, whatever her name is, to debate me on this, and I will rip her to pieces. She herself has said Lockheed Martin has in fact has been part of stealing trillions of dollars, and so why in the world would she in any way not know that Lockheed Martin is the criminal involved in this and who empowered them? SES executives. We now know. At first, we believed that there were only a certain number of agencies in the federal government, though we knew there were subsections and subgroups. We now know that there are 75 agencies in the federal government, and every one of them is controlled by an SES cadre member who takes an oath when they become an SES member. So, senior member, you need to ask those people, or admit that you're one of them, and or go look at the Senior Executive Institute and notice that they literally are trained to be globalists before they even take their jobs. And then they rotate between jobs, so they don't know what they're doing. They simply do what they are told. They are a cadre. We know, as you have pointed out, Betsy, that people on the inside are trying to, top SES members running huge agencies are trying to retire right now.
Did you know that Rod Rosenstein is Senior Executive Services? He's supposed to come out with some big cyber announcement today. Who is this guy?
That's a distraction. Mueller is, of course, paid through SES. Christopher Wray is SES. Andrew McCabe is SES. Bruce Orr is SES.
Well,
on and on and on.
Well, what about these 500 attorneys that are sitting over there at the Department of Justice running the whole cabal?
I'm going to get there.
Okay, I'll be quiet.
That's why Senior Executive Service members are all trying to retire right now, because when they retire, get ready for this, folks,
This will blow you away. Hold on.
And I want to mention this person's name, and I want to mention all the names of the people who have contacted Betsy to contact.
Don't, because then they won't.
I'm not saying the names.
Okay.
And then contacted me. So every morning I get a call getting me out of bed because of the article the Conclave wrote about the SES, because the deep state is falling. The shadow government has been revealed, and these people are so nervous they're trying to move into retirement. What does that mean?
Well, you tell them what about the retirement. What happens when they retire?
They get the same amount of money for the rest of their lives.
The rest of their lives, people, we are supporting these swamp creatures who've been trying to take down our government.
So when you get one of these appointments, it's for life. But most people don't understand this. In most cases, I haven't searched it, say in certain states and certainly in the federal government, once you serve, a few terms, you have a permanent retirement and permanent insurance for the rest of your life. Even if you got the job when you're, 18 years old, doesn't matter. When you look at the budget for the government, you always are told to look at the entitlement section. Because look at those nasty people who are collecting the money they paid into Social Security, on Social Security disability and getting Medicaid. The worst bill we have is Medicaid. Wrong. Triple wrong. And for you financiers who've worked in the government, are you really so stupid that you don't know that the retirement of every politician is an entitlement and it goes into the entitlement category? So it looks like the poor people are taking the money when the rich people are taking the money? 75 agencies, the SES, SEA, SIS, ES, and all the rest of them control. When they're tired of it, they don't even have to reach tenure. There is no tenure. So if you fire them, they still get their pay. That is the reason that $56,000 to Andrew McCabe is it's laughable. He is SES. Those are standard rates they're looking at from the general schedule, the GS. He is automatically above GS 15. In other words, above all civil servants. Civil servants can rise their whole life of working up to GS 15. These people are hired above that, and their pays go up, and they're hidden, and they control these agencies, and they don't have to have tenure, and when they retire, permanent retirement for the same amount that they were making. So when this is unbelievable. Now, mind you, there are, I don't know how many people, I'm going to guess, about 100 people working on this right now and funneling it through us as a spokesperson and through Americans for Innovation, but then they have hundreds of people working with them.
Oh, Thomas, you can't believe we're getting so many document dumps right now on these matters. We're having to call a special meeting tomorrow to get all of our geologists organized.
You need to catch up. If you think SES is good, you need to catch up. And I don't think I've ever said this. I'm speaking to about 6 people who are now turning and saying, gee, Thomas Paine, in the ass of the globalists. You were right about Horowitz. You were right about Trump getting rid of Cohn. You were right about Rex Tillerson. You were right about the SES. You were right about the QRS-11. You were right about the Internet of Things and the takeover through Vigilant, through Richard C. Walker. You were right about all these. How can you possibly be right about all these things? And then now we're wrong about SES. We're not wrong. Anyone, Google, Senior Executive Institute. It is a paramilitary organization where they go to that institute. Every SES member, every member of any of these groups that are paid through SES is a cluster.
They have to be indoctrinated into their cult.
I haven't got to the Council of 500 because I'm going to get really upset when that happens. But these people go there and they get basically the same MK Ultra, PSYOPs, indoctrination to turn them into globalists. There is no American that isn't part of a transnational, international, globalist company presenting to the SES members when they are indoctrinated. This is an indoctrination much more profound than the indoctrination they do in the CIA, which is basically they tell you, shh, CIA, we control the world, and if it wasn't for us, America wouldn't be the ruler. You have to let us do what we're doing. Wrong. In the CIA. The Holman Clause, Mr. Trump, you want to know why everyone's freaking out and all these SES senior members, who are, by the way, known as vicious, horrible people. who know nothing about what they're in charge of. They're all trying to retire now to move to their tenured retirement to get out of Trump paying them $1 because the Holman Clause was enacted for this last budgetary consideration. And I know that this person will argue with me about the way the budget was passed and it doesn't allow the Holman Act to be enacted as part of the budget. Incorrect. The president has the right at any time to lower anybody's federal salary to $1 a year. The Holman Clause. He needs to do that to all members of SES.
All members. Just take them.
We've got SIS.
Yes.
And guess what?
Yes, $1 a year.
Guess what, you people who have worked inside the government and you're now out and you're the big revealers? I'm going to reveal you. You don't know what you're talking about. You are covering for the very agencies that stole all those trillions of dollars.
Hello?
These are the people who control it. They control all corporate contracts. And then, get ready for this, out of the 117,000 people in the Department of Justice, even though Mr. Magoo can only find one person to investigate the Imran Awan largest espionage scandal in U.S. history,
maybe SES staff are keeping him from getting to the truth.
Well, absolutely. Matter of fact, he may have become SES when he was put in the position of Attorney General. You have to understand, when these people are hired, they're so corrupt, they won't take a small salary. They have to have this mafia salary, which is for life. Okay? So don't tell me about it. So SES members are rushing. We are being, it would have to be called harassed. We are being bombarded. I'm being bombarded. And look, I'm not in a good mood before 11 o'clock a.m. And this is before 11 o'clock a.m. And this is before my drink. And I just want to answer you people.
Well, wait a minute. You know that drink is apple cider vinegar and honey, Manuka honey and all that. Not a vodka tonic. Okay?
If I drank and I don't smoke, I don't do poisonous vices because I'm not stupid. But anyway.
But you have a vicious tongue.
I have a vicious tongue. So, the entire conclave is just up in arms because we now get to see who's who. We have identified the true deep state. And just like some people write a book called Killing the Deep State, the way to kill the deep state is kill SES. Stop it. Pay it $1. Use the Holman Clause. Give all the 500 people that I'm now going to describe $1. They'll all leave. The Department of Justice has 117,000 employees. But, good old Jeff Sessions can't find any lawyers to prosecute anybody. And by the way, think about the prosecutions that have happened. That's right. There's so few of them you can name them on both hands. They don't prosecute anybody. So anyway, 117,000 of them. 500 of them are SES members, top SES members who sit on a review board. Actually, it's 498. But since Obama and I put Obama on there and Hillary or Biden, so it rolls into it. 500. So we call it the Council of 500. All DOJ lawyers. Every one of them.
Probably from like these places like Jones and WilmerHale and places like that.
Correct. You hit it on the head.
All these
Gibson Dunn, WilmerHale, all the worst lawyers in America, in D.C., sit on a council. It's called the SES Review Board. And that council gives raises every year to the 10,000 SES members. Imagine that. Civil servants don't get raises every year. Sometimes they're frozen in their pay for 10 years. These people make more than everybody. They don't know what they're doing. They get their pay for the rest of their life as well as benefits. And then every year they get a raise. And those 500 crooked SES, now mind you, these are SES members who can't be fired, making sure that other SES members get their yearly pay so that they are all paid off, bought off, and the machination, the mechanism of political parasitical control through corporate imperialism is directly connected to those 500 lawyers. They can't go to jail because this is legal. And as we have shown you so many times, The horriblest things we can show you are perfectly legal now. That's the age we live in. Falsehood politics, the age of untruth.
Doesn't mean that it's right or moral. It's just that these lawyers, they are all together and they say, okay, let's make it legal to propagandize against Americans so that this immoral, illegitimate act that we're committing on you is technically legal.
You know, people ask us all the time, Betsy, as you full well know, how does the conclave come up with this stuff? Do they have a crystal ball? No, we don't. Well, we do have crystal balls, but that's not the point. The point is we get it by doing our homework, and we get it by going to the government documents, and we use government documents to indict them. We don't use insider stuff. Even though right now, here's what's happening. The insiders tell us, and mind you, can I brag for a minute here, Betsy?
The floor is yours, Thomas.
We're connected to pretty much everybody in the alternative media, but we don't associate with a lot of them because we can't prove whose side they're on. So this just proved it. If you ever had any doubt about anybody in the alternative news or the mainstream media, see if they are talking about SeS, because if they're not, they're protecting the deep state shadow government. They're protecting their friends. They're protecting these people who have the sweetest deals and the best golden parachutes ever created, and they're all the same group. Now, these 500, these lawyers, every year they can give out awards, many types of awards. They don't tell you those awards also mean money and benefits. So this is an insider cronyism, graft, nepotism, the worst. This is worse than lobbies, even though the next thing we're going after is every lobbyist must be removed from the District of Columbia, and every lawyer must turn in their law license, because otherwise they're all insiders now, aren't they? It's kind of like bankers being brokers. You know, that's insane. They instantaneously, by the nature of who they are, have insider trading information, so of course they can manipulate the stock market. Hello? Who do you think is manipulating the stock market right now? The central banks, who own 1/3 of their assets is in the stock market, so they have to make it go up and down, up and down, and up and down, so they can get in and out, sell.
Is that what the plunge protection team does?
They're doing it right now, yes.
Okay, now what about Steve Mnuchin? What is his relationship to the plunge protection team and what he's doing at the Treasury?
It was insane. First off, the entire premise of the stock market is a bunch of crazy people. It's a tax gambling casino. It's a tax haven gambling casino. And they always win. But the point is, it's all wrong. And it was based just like these other laws. They're based upon the wrong premise. They're based on selling out Americans, selling out taxpayers. We never have to pay another penny tax, ever. All you have to do is tax the stock market for what they buy and sell, especially derivatives. They're buying and selling thin air, making money, taking it out of this country, putting it in hedge funds, tax-free, and going to foreign countries. Why would we let any foreign country do this to our stock market, where we have most of our retirement funds? We let it had to keep going up because they were scared Trump was coming after them. When Mnuchin truly got control of the U.S. Treasury, the plunge protection team, and the Exchange Stabilization Fund, which actually controls the Fed, he then, what's happened? The stock market is going up and down, up and down, up and down, and the Fed is raising rates. In other words, our economy is recovering. There is no free market. Now, why? Because the SeS controls the SEC, the Federal Trade Commission. They control the Securities and Exchange Commission. They control all federal agencies.
Well, this Miss 21 trillion missing from the U.S. government seems to think that the SeS are the only people to solve the problem.
First off, that person is incorrect to say how that money left. That is not the absolute truth. There's much more to it. And she needs to understand that the very people who are doing that in New York are rogue CIA. Everyone manipulating the market is connected to ex-intelligence people who left the United States government after setting up loopholes in regulations and then going out into corporate world and taking advantage of those loopholes, and then using their SES members to make sure that nothing ever moves forward, that no good laws are passed, and that the old bad laws or even the good laws are stopped by internal regulations within these agencies, which are every one of these 75 agencies has the right to write regulations that can usurp the law under which it is created and which it's supposed to be active. So that is not the way you get the 21 trillion back. No. You go for the very person that's mentioned in this remark, Lockheed Martin. Lockheed Martin has the largest intelligence agency. It's larger than the NSA. And mind you, 65% of intelligence in America is done by corporate agencies. They all need to be fired. Lockheed Martin is an international company. They are on the other side. Any globalist is not a nationalist, and they are an enemy of the state, in my opinion. I do not believe in globalism because TPP, NAFTA shows us what globalism gets us. The United Nations, the World Bank, all these are fake. The USAID, we call this aid. This isn't aid. This is ripoff. Who runs those? SES members. Now, mind you, they have many titles. ESAPRESCK.
Oh, they're like nasty rats. They just hide all kinds of places you don't see.
And even though we have been part, with the help of Americans for Innovation, for creating the complete expose where you can plug in anybody's name and find out if they're an SES member, you can now plug in anybody's name and find out if they're one of the 500 lawyers. I would call them warlord lawyers because they sell out to corporations and to the military-industrial complex. There is not a member of the military-industrial complex, in other words, corporations who get, in many cases, no-bid military contracts or huge government contracts, that is not an international corporation. No such thing. And even if they are, then they're owned by internationalists. So we have also pointed out what was the first thing that all SES members are trained to do: sell out to globalists. So who do you think actually controls, who is the number one choice, I should say, of the trained Obama cadre? Because at least 8,000 of the 9,100 or so, we don't really know, because even what we've been able to do is only partial. We're going to keep revealing more. 33,000 more documents are coming forth. We're putting them out there. You can study this. We are not making this up. This is bigger than any WikiLeaks that has ever happened. This is bigger than any leak that has ever happened. And I know this because I have to turn down multiple requests as the spokesperson for aimfortruth.org and the Anonymous Patriots and the American Intelligence Media. I have to turn them down. I can't even tell you how many I have to turn down a day because I don't trust them. I now know who they are. This issue, I'm not going to name names, but if they're not talking right now about what we broke about a month ago when the Anonymous Patriots wrote an intelligence report on the Senior Executive Service and started to reveal it, and then now it's a huge pile-on. I think there's hundreds of people involved in revealing this at this point. If they are not talking about this, then they are part of it. They should close their mouth, go Google Senior Executive Institute. Look at their agenda. Look at their training. Read our articles. Listen to our audios. Go to Americans for Innovation, and you will see the indictable evidence there. No one can deny this unless they don't have eyes or they can't read.
Of course, I will have all these links in the description box.
So, folks, we have discovered the mechanism of the shadow government. Now, when you say deep state, remember, deep state could be Alexia Chalupa, who's a part of the Democratic National Committee.
I thought it was Alexandra
Chalupa, who is actually a Russian. Says she's a Ukrainian now, but she's the Russian who she's also on the Atlantic Council to make sure that NATO will support insane people like Turkey's President Erdogan, who is one of the most horrible people on the earth right now. But if he decides to attack another country and they attack back, we have to defend him. That's why we're there. He's in NATO. Turkey's in NATO. So Whether he doesn't know it, he's a member of the deep state, and he's after a guy here, Gulen Fethullah, who has ripped off the charter school movement more than any other person in the charter school movement in American history.
It's an indoctrination. He indoctrinates these children, and he gets federal money for it.
And he's also part of the deep state because we pay him tens of millions of dollars a year to have Muslim-oriented, radical, Wahhabist charter schools. And this is well known.
Everybody knows it.
But now you want to ask the question, why does Thomas say all this stuff that scares the crap out of me? And I didn't know. And how could it possibly be true? He sounds like the worst conspiracy theory. No, everything I tell you is backed up unless I say this is my opinion. And it's backed up by the entire conclave. By the way, the conclave grows with members every day.
And amazing talents, too, are coming.
Astounding!
Oh, my goodness.
I'm telling you, the smartest people in America. And I would love to tell you who we actually have been working with in all kinds of bizarre ways you wouldn't believe. But anyway, the point is, anyone in any media that tries to defend SES is part of it. And if they say they aren't, then they don't have a very good mind because they haven't done any study. And if they say they're part of the government and they worked under SES people,
and that
how naive could they be?
Yeah.
The SES members who rule our entire federal government, now we find out it goes out to the state government and deep even into the city governments. The SES controls pretty much the entire government, even presidential appointees, even the president. He's being attacked by an SES member right now, Robert Mueller. And who was the major person causing it? Andrew McCabe, SES member. Who's protecting McCabe and wouldn't even fire him? Christopher Wray. Who was the DOJ contact in the entire conspiracy? Bruce Orr. He sits on the Council of 500. They haven't fired him yet because they can't fire him. They can't fire Peter Strzok. Why do you think Horowitz found horrible crimes? By the way, these are crimes.
Oh, wait a minute, Horowitz. Now we have
Strzok and Page and Orr. Those are crimes.
Thomas, we have another alt media creator who sent us a little note today saying, "Oops, he's sorry, he was wrong about Michael Horowitz, and now he wants to talk to you about it."
We have said from the beginning, Michael Horowitz is standard operating procedure for an inspector general. If you've ever been in the government and you expect an inspector general to do something just and honest and right, then you are naive. I want to use worse words like Trump used in the campaign and say they're stupid. But these people aren't stupid. They pass laws to allow them to be unlawful. And anyone who doesn't know this has not done their homework. Especially now that we have been shouting this out, and it is everywhere. If you have not seen the term SES come up, then you're on the wrong channels. First off. Second off, when it does come up, see if the people defend it or take it down. It's got to go down. We will never stop on this. So, Betsy, in response to the fact that you called me and got me up early, it's nice that you fixed my drink for me and all, but still, I just want to say I'm not happy because I'm not getting the sleep I need because once we revealed this, the SES exploded. Christine Marcy in 1979 implemented the law that was passed in 78, the Civil Service Reform Act, which added a fourth, well, it actually completely dismantled the civil service and created 4 departments. 3 of them we know of. One of them is the SES. Their symbol is the Keystone. And Jimmy Carter, who did this, because remember, Jimmy Carter was strictly CIA. He was funded by BCCI. Sorry to have to burst your bubble for the happy peanut farmer. But he's the one who set this up with Christine Marcy, one of the most evil people in our government, still setting up agencies and mechanisms like this to this very moment. Called up her brother, who she hasn't been in contact for 11 years because he, through Able Danger site, through Field McConnell, her brother, has been revealing her evil way back to 1978 and perhaps even beyond. So we tuned in to SES through Field McConnell. Christine Marcy, and he's all out there talking about this, called him up and begged him to stop. Stop his attack on SES. Please.
She says she had 3,000 members call her a writer.
3,756, He quotes the number. Yeah. And she has begged him to stop, to call his dogs off.
Wolf.
He can't call us off.
No.
We haven't even, we're in communication with him, but I have yet to speak with him. But when I do, I'm just going to thank him because I need to keep researching other things that Christine Marcy has created, which just shocks me every time I look into one of them. But the point is, when Christine Marcy is called by almost 4,000, and by now it's probably all of them, and certainly the 500 have called her, the Council of 500, the evil SeS. This is the worst of the worst. This makes... You don't even know what they have planned. If I told you what they had planned, and it's all read...
Well, why not tell people? No.
It's worse. It is equivalent to what the Nazis planned. Now, let's go on. Christine Marcy, reacting. Fake alternative news people going out of their minds trying to defend SeS. Other people, it doesn't exist because they won't do a Google. You see what has happened here? We have hit the mark. We have pushed their biggest button. We have called them out. We have shown the spotlight on the evil 500. And once the evil 500's pay is moved to $1, as Trump now has the authority to do, and he should, because he can't change the structure by law unless he changes it through the Congress, but he certainly has the power to hire and fire. He can get rid of them, and he can appoint a whole bunch of people. He probably doesn't even know because Obama in 2015 started to amp up and take the SeS to the largest amount it has been, and then create all these crazy new rules that make it, almost impervious and untouchable and invulnerable. And he then said that they all have to now pick up the pace of rotating between the 75 agencies so that none of them know what they're doing. All they do is follow the orders given to them by their training through the Senior Executive Institute and by their bosses, the people who appointed them. They don't have to know anything. They just have to nod yes or no, and they are the number one obstructionists. They are in total collusion. They are a conspiracy, but it is a legal conspiracy. It has to be taken down legally. So Joseph DiGenova, you've already started beating up on Mueller. They're already getting terrified. I'm glad John Dodd is out. That kind of indicates to me that there's not going to be any more litigation. There's simply going to be lawyers talking because that's all that really ever happens in a court, by the way. Billable hours. When you go into a court, the decision is made before you go there because the biased judges, they know who to put the case before. This is true in divorce court. It's true all the way up through every federal court. And every lawyer would tell you this if they were honest, but they don't because they're fighting each other so they get billable hours. So Joseph DiGenova is probably going to, next time that Mueller tries to harass the White House, he's going to go talk to him and he's going to say, look, I'm going to put you away in prison forever because I'm going to sue you, just as Manafort is suing him for his wrongful impanelment of judges that were already tainted. He impaneled Judge Contreras, the judge who heard the false FISA warrants. And by the way, there's more than one warrant, y'all. Y'all are all focused on the Carter Page Title I. That was the domestic one, and that was the Federal Bureau of Investigation Counterintelligence that got that one. But look at the one they got for George Papadopoulos. That puts John Brennan in jail. These people have to go to jail. Everyone who signed one of those was part of a conspiracy. They knew it was fake. And it was a conspiracy to rig election, overthrow a president-elect, and a coup d'etat. So now that he's got a good lawyer who is going to go on the offensive, now that McCabe has been fired, that's one of the first firings of any SeS member. Now, why are all of the agency SeS members freaking? Because of the following. Because last year they passed this Holman Clause. The Holman Clause gives unbelievable power to the boss of the 2.5 million people who work in the federal government. Every one of them that is connected to the executive branch works for Trump. He may not be able to fire the SeS, but he can control their salaries. He can control their funding. He can appoint people. He can move people. He can dismantle things so they no longer... He can go to the Senior Executive Institute and close it. He can make sure that all senior executive members who stay, who are paid...
Well, he should, because it concerns national security, that you have a force within the United States trying to overthrow the government. Shouldn't they be shut down?
An outside non-domestic force. These are corporations that are international, and Serco...
But the Institute is sitting right here on American soil, probably operating under American laws, right?
Correct. It's operating under SeS
and they're
law.
Teaching their people how to thwart the government, obstruct. It seems to me that that's a threat.
It's more than a threat, and if you take the angle we're taking, you can first off close down Serco because it is a foreign attack against our infrastructure. Second off, you can simply defund. You don't really defund. You simply lower their salaries because none of them do anything.
Give them as much as the president makes a year.
And I'm sorry for those alternative news people who are attacking me and saying that these SeS members are good, sound people who came up through the ranks. Wrong. The moment they became an SeS member and went out of the civil service normal ranks,
they knew what they were doing.
They had to take a vow. They had to take a promise. They had to get indoctrinated. They had to see that what they were being paid was illegal. They had to see they were going beyond the whole civil service system, and they could see then that the senior executive service, in all of its many names, in every branch of the government, every agency in the government, is in control, ruthlessly in control, and many of them don't know what they're talking about. So why would you join a group like that? I have no compassion for you. I have no compassion for your family or that you'll be out of a job. Go get an honest job, okay? Because you created the regulations, you created the laws that keep people in enslavement. There doesn't need to be any taxes. I can tell you 10 ways there doesn't need to be any taxes. I can make all the money with a single decision of simply following the law. No American would have to pay any more taxes.